Hello everyone, it's Patricia from TarantulaHeaven.com. We have Miss Spidey, my G. Rosea, here. She just moved to the back of the enclosure and she's continuing to move, but I think she's going to move to the front. She's a little bit active right now, so I hope she turns around and starts to face you guys so that you can see her because she's looking beautiful today. So today I wanted to talk about common hiding places for tarantulas. I had made a video, it's I think one of my most popular videos about what to do if your tarantula gets lost. And it's been a few years since I made that video, and so I figured let's make another video similar with a different title so that other people can find it too. Because I think that this is like one of the main things that a new tarantula owner should know. And because of the popularity of that other video, it happens a lot. People lose their tarantulas a lot. So the first thing is that you don't want to lose your tarantula. A lot of this stuff could be avoided by getting really great enclosures with locking mechanisms and also keeping your tarantula away from cats, for example, or children. Just being super careful about making sure that you close the enclosure, that you're not leaving it open for long periods of time if you're changing the water or anything. This is not so much of a concern for a tarantula like Spidey because she's a terrestrial, so she doesn't really climb her walls. I mean, she does, but she's not very fast. So unless she's scared, she moves like a little snail. so that's not, I myself have not dealt with a speedy spider who is unpredictable. If you have one of those tarantulas or like an arboreal who does like to climb a lot, you really might want to be very, very careful. And a lot of other people do kind of reduce the risk by doing things like tank changes in a small closed room. So like putting towels under the door so the tarantula can't escape if they get out. I see a lot of people use their bathtubs with like stuffing the drain with like a towel or something, but like using their bathtubs as ways that they can kind of slow the tarantula down because of the walls and the tub. So I think that there are definitely certain methods that you can use, but in general, if your tarantula does get loose for whatever reason and you are trying to find them, I did want to talk about what are some good places that a tarantula will probably hide so that you can think of these places first. The biggest thing, and I think the most important thing, is that as soon as you realize your tarantula is missing, you need to look everywhere you are stepping. So if you have a messy room or if it's in a messy area where there's lots of stuff, don't step anywhere where you can't see the ground. Because I have heard of tarantulas hiding under items of clothing. They can make themselves very small when they want to hide. Spidey, when her legs are like outstretched, she's actually pretty big. She's bigger than my hand. But when she wants to hide and be smaller, she can really bring her legs into her body. And she looks pretty tiny. When people do see her, or when you guys occasionally see videos of her actually outstretched, you're like, oh my God, she's huge. But sometimes when she's just kind of huddled up in herself, she looks pretty small to me. So they can make themselves tiny if they want to. So please be very, very careful. Things like shoes. I have heard tarantulas hiding in shoes and then their owners finding them when they're trying to put on their shoes. So be very, very careful. You have to really check everything, all items of clothing, drawers, everything. Because our clothes or our shoes are usually like in dark places. Tarantulas will naturally try to seek some sort of shelter, and that would be the perfect place. I think a shoe would be a great place for a tarantula. So you want to start picking things up off the floor like incredibly slowly and not trust anything. Your tarantula could be underneath something or near something. I think another thing you really want to look for is look in the corners of your room. So like I said, tarantulas really do like dark places and they also like small places. So tarantula will try to go where they think they're going to be safe. So a lot of our tarantulas don't like to be out in the open or like in these big open spaces. Usually what we are encouraged to do as soon as we get one is to give them some sort of shelter. So your tarantula will naturally try to seek out something like that or to be in a smaller space. So a corner is a great place for them to be. You may also want to look at your ceiling corners too, in case you have a tarantula that likes to climb. don't underestimate how strong they are or how fast they can be if you have one of these tarantulas. I've definitely heard of tarantulas being found on their walls or on their ceilings. And that sounds terrifying to me, but it does happen. You also want to look in, just like the corners, you want to look in other small spaces. So little boxes, or perhaps underneath a dresser or under the bed. Like, the spider is going to look for a place where it's going to feel more secure. I've also heard that sometimes they're attracted to warmth too, so I wouldn't discount this either. Let's say, for example, there's like a warm vent or something like that. I don't know if that's a great example, because they definitely don't like air blowing on them. Like, if you've ever accidentally breathed on your tarantula, you'll notice that they freak out, they hate it. So I don't know if that's a great example, but if there is like a heater or anything kind of warmth, your tarantula might hang out around there. And I don't think I've really ever experienced that, guys, so I can't say for certain, but I have definitely heard from a lot of people that when they do have some sort of heating mechanism near their tarantula, like let's say, for example, during the winter, their tarantula will actually move to that side of the enclosure. Tarantulas cannot regulate their body temperature, so maybe there's something about that attracts them. And I think the last thing I'll mention is just moisture. Especially if your tarantula's been lost for like a few days, they will be trying to hydrate themselves. So one of the things that you can do to maybe help you find your tarantula is to leave a small water dish out in the room that the tarantula got lost in. I have heard people finding their tarantulas by doing that. But if there is any moisture, like let's say, for example, your tarantula is in your basement or something like that, your tarantula may be trying to seek that out. So you might want to kind of think about those places in the room. The last thing I'll say is don't give up. I've heard some crazy stories about people finding their tarantulas 6 months later, a year later, and maybe they're not in the best shape, but they get found. So don't give up, but definitely be careful. Continue to be careful. And if you guys have had this experience, because I haven't had this direct experience, and you found your tarantula, please let me know in the comments if you have any other advice for somebody who might be in this situation, or if I've forgotten a certain hiding place that you think is super common and useful to know. Please do share it with everybody, because I am just working off of my own research and what I've heard from other people. I certainly don't know every experience or thing there is to know. So please do share it and add to the knowledge that people can learn from this video. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and Miss Spidey is waving at you, and I will see you next week for Tarantula Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.